Hello my boys, welcome to my updated Totem Master build guide. Yeah, this is a build that I've been perfecting for more than 2 months in Path of Exile 2, and not only that, in the 0.2 patch notes this build got buffed, so it got even stronger. Let's start somewhere. Let's explain how this build works. Firstly, you need to understand that this is a very tanky build, incredibly tanky. It can even farm Simulacrum on difficulty +4, which, in case you don't know, few builds can do that shit. Basically, you place totems and you move around the map and everything will die. Yeah? Very easy to play, very lazy, and the setup, it's easy to understand and to make. You will see when we talk about the item section. Basically, this is the gameplay. You will move inside the maps and you place totems and they will do everything for you. They will target and kill the enemies for you. You don't need to press a lot of buttons. Yeah, if you have a map boss, for example, you will also place Orb of Storms that can give you here some more regeneration and rage. As long as you stay in the radius of the orb, you will get more life regeneration and rage. Your life bar will mostly stay at 100%. Now let's start with the good stuff. So we had the patch note changes for this build, and it got even better. Now the build is much more stronger. So we had here some buffs for the Warbringer Ascendancy. First of all, this is the biggest. We had a penalty for Turtle Charm Ascendancy, which was pretty much broken. We will talk about it in the Ascendancy panel. So the downside was 35%, now it's 25% less blockchains. This means that it's much more easier now to keep our blockchains. We can even save some skill points. For example, we can drop these points and invest them somewhere else. Or we can free some jewel slots. We will talk in the items section about this. The Turtle Charm Ascendancy is busted as fuck, especially when maxing. If you put a Svalin shield and you have Turtle Charm here, you will block much more things than normal. Yeah, so this is an overpowered block. It's not your regular blockchains. It's so busted for this Ascendancy. That's why we're close to immortal with this build on a budget. So this is a huge buff that will free up a lot of skill points for us. I love it. Also, all the minions, so when we're summoning totems, we're receiving a minion. All these minions got buffed. This is the idea, and the buffs that I like the most is, first of all, this one. So we're getting 20% increased skill speed. So previously we were getting just 10%, now 20%. This is a buff that lasts multiple seconds, and 20% skill speed, it's great, it's a lot. Also, the turtle increases defenses by 80% now, instead of 50%, this is also good. So they buffed all these minions. The buffs that they grant, they are more empowered now. And keep in mind that they will add 100 plus support gems. And in those 100 gems, most likely we will have some really good options for our minions here that we can use. So not only that, we're getting minions that act like mid shields because they block damage for us and they use skills and abilities and grant us buffs, but we can support them with various support skill gems. This is a very big upgrade, especially this one with Turtle Charm. Okay, Thunder now attacks faster. We're using Thunder Totems in this version because, as you know, I did so many changes for this build across 2 months. So here is the info channel, and I started with Shockwave Totem, and I always adapted this build, trying my best to lower the cost and make it as tanky as possible and new player friendly. So a new player, if he does this build, he should be able to be immortal and have a good time, because he's very lazy to play. Yeah, so the last version is with Thunder Totems, and Thunder got buffed. Now it's 1 second instead of 1.4 seconds, so you will attack faster. This is a big damage boost here that we got with the Thunder Totems. And the last change from the patch notes that affect our build positively is this one. Armor on all monsters has been reduced by 30%. Now, before I start explaining the updated build guide here, you need to understand that this will be a temporary guide, because they said that they will release 100 plus support gems, and most likely we will use some of these support gems and do changes for the build. That's why you need to understand that this will be a temporary build guide, so people can leak start with this build and have fun. But in 10 days or so, I will do a full build guide on this, where I will include those new support gems. I will do testing inside the game. I will also do daily summaries of my progress since the leak start. You know, from 0 to hero. Each day you will have a summary of my progress, so you can see this build in action. Now, here on PoE Vault, I have the build guide for this build. So if you want to see it, you'll have in the description of this video a link to PoE Vault, where you have everything regarding this build guide, about the items, some warnings, yeah, for the campaign progression here, some tips for maxing the build, some reminders, common mistakes, everything you will have it here. Again, the PoE Vault link will be in the description of this video. And for leveling a warrior on League Start scenario, we will use Mr. Diama's warrior guide here for League Start. It's pretty good, I took a look on it, and here you have a POEGuy link. And you just look here for Act 1, you see the setups here, Act 2, Act 3, and he has a lot of explanation here if you want to do it. Yeah, and we will transition from his guide here into my build later. So for acts 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., you will use his guide here. Again, I will put a link in the description of this video. It's also on PoE Vault. Now let's get started with the build guide. Let's go. Okay, my boys, now let's take a closer look at the items that we use here. You need to understand that this build on a budget, so on 1-2 Divinoms, it can clear waste on 15 and 16, and it's extremely tanky. So this is important to understand that this build can clear waste on 15 and 16, which are the highest waste on possible. On a budget, on just 1-2 Divinoms, you will clear those waste on, which is excellent. So I need to start with that. Now let's explain all the items here. For the shield, we're using Rise of the Phoenix. This is a very cheap item, and if it's possible, you will take one with an useful corruption, because it's very cheap. Even with corruptions, it will be cheap. Ideally, it will be live gain when you block, or you take with 2 sockets. So you have more runes and soul cores that you can socket inside. For the amulet slot, we are using Idol of Uldurn. This is a very important amulet for our build. Not only that will give us 1 extra totem, it will also spawn 1 extra minion. Yeah, and these minions, you know, you have support gems, they give you buffs, and they act as mist shields, so having 1 more is good. And also you can place 2 Orb of Storms. Yeah. Some people like to get later a rare amulet with level of all melee skill gems, but I explained here why Idol of Uldum is superior, especially for map clears. Having more totems that you can spread in your maps means that you can clear the map faster. So more totems, faster map clears, especially for mapping. And if you have a boss, you just stack all the totems in one place, and you will notice that the damage is actually similar to a +3 amulet. Just remember to anoint it. Now we have 2 anoints here that you can use. For budget, we will use Flashy Deflection. And for later, if you want to get the best anoint, will be this one, Pairing Motion. Basically, it will give you movement speed when you block, and this build blocks a lot. So meaning that you will move very fast in your maps just because you have this anoint here. You need to understand that this build does a lot of damage based on gem levels. That's why it's essential for the gloves to have this modifier here, +2 level of all melee skill gems. The ideal gloves will also have some life. But you know, if you just get started, you'll just buy random gloves which are armor based ideally, with +2 level of all melee skill gems. Now, if you have also evasion rating on any of your rares, it's no problem, because we have this Iron Reflexes keystone that converts that evasion into armor. So even if you cannot find a pure armor base, don't worry, you have this node that converts all the evasion that you have into armor. So no problem there. The weapon is very important here, because we're dealing damage based on gem levels. So the more gem levels we have to bump up our skill gem, the more damage we do. Now for budget, of course, you will use a random mace with +5 level of all melee skills. This is dirt cheap. You need to understand that all the other modifiers get ignored. So the weapon physical damage gets ignored. It does not get added to the totem damage. This is what you need to understand. So basically, the only modifier that you carry is level 4 melee skill gems. If you can find one with strength, also it's good. Yeah. For the campaign leveling progression, you will get as much melee skill gems as possible as you progress. When you reach the mapping system, you should have a mace with +5 melee skills. This is very cheap. Okay, I need to stress that on a budget, this build can clear waste on 15 without any problems. If you want to do the normal build, you will use a 2-handed mace here with a +6 or +7. You see here, it's more damage. Now, in order to equip a 2-handed weapon, because by default you can only use a 1-hander, you will need to allocate this keystone here, which is called Giant's Blood. Once you allocate this keystone, you will be able to equip a 2-handed weapon. Now, it comes with a downside that we need to fix. It says here, triple attribute requirements of your weapons. I have 101 strength, this will get tripled. So I will need 300 free strength in order to use it. There are some tricks that we can do here in order to lower this attribute requirement. Yeah, for example, here I use the soul core, which is called soul core of Chocotl, and this lowers the strength requirements, but it also provides some dexterity. So now that 22 dexterity will get multiplied by 3, so I'll need to have 66 dexterity here, which I have. You see, so I can use it. And here it's another example. I used the Soul Core of Zampidi and of Chocotl, and now it reduced the strength requirement, but added some dexterity and intelligence requirement. And keep in mind that because of that keystone, it will get multiplied by 3. So this will be by 3, so I will need to have around 102 dexterity and intelligence in order to equip this one, for example. Now, my boy, I want to show you how to properly search on the trade website for a mace. So you got tired of +5, you want to do an upgrade, you allocate that keystone and you want to buy a 2-handed mace. And I will show you right now. Okay, so pay close attention. We will put here 2-handed mace. Here we'll put melee skills. level 4 melee skills and you put minimum 7. Yeah, if you want to try budget, maybe you will search with 6 and you see the prices. Yeah, and now it's very important here. You have a strength requirement. You will put maximum something decent, 160 or 170, and you click search. This is how you'll search it, but you will want to avoid these ones which already have the soul cores inside. So this is 127 strength, which is lower, but the guy already used the soul cores, so this is actually bad. You want to buy one with low strength, which does not have this soul cores enabled. So you scroll and you look for ones that don't have those soul cores inside. Like this one, for example. This is good. Yeah, and you socket it yourself and you put those soul cores inside. That will lower the attribute requirements. Don't worry, I will do the main build guide as I promised in 10 days, which I will explain in detail. This was a fast discussion. For the chest armor, it's essential to have an expert steel plate for the implicit, regenerate life per second. Basically, our build uses life to cast spells, and we want a lot of life regeneration in order to regen our life back up really fast, even without pressing the life flask. So this is a lazy build, we need this one. So this is mandatory, you will take an expert steel plate, and we take with armor with maximum life and resistances. So your fire, lighting and cold should be kept. Here you want everything kept, and for chaos resistance it's fine to have 40% or more. You don't need to have 75%, but at least 40%. This is mandatory for late end mapping. Yeah, basically this will take also for the helmet. You focus on life, some armors and resistances to cap your resistances. Same for the boots. Ideally with movement speed, so you move fast. Good. Here for the rings you want with a lot of resistances, some life. Again, a lot of resistances, some life. And it's interesting here because in Path of Exile 2, the physical damage to attacks works with totems. I don't know why, but it works. Yeah. So if you can find a ring that also has physical damage to attacks, knows that that damage gets calculated for our totem damage, which is good to know. Very interesting items, really easy to get because it's resistances and life pretty much. For the belt, again, you look for life, you look for resistances. Ideally, it would be if these items also have strength. So you see you have maximum life and some strength. For example here, I have maximum life, strength. You see, this is ideal. Now for the charms, the only important one is this one that gives immunity to freeze, and the rest ones are just simply additions. If your belt has multiple charm slots, then you will add this one silver charm that will remove the slows, and you can also take grounding charm that will remove shock. Yeah, these are optional. The most important is timing charm. So if your belt doesn't have extra charm slots, no problem whatsoever. Keep in mind we are not using mana, so don't look here. And for the life flask, you use for an ultimate life flask and you roll it as much as you desire because we barely use it. We rarely place the life flask here. Yeah, I need to stress that this build can be maxed. So let's start here. For the budgeting, you will use a +5 mace. Here the setup. For the gems, you should have them level 19 for late mapping, for Wasteland 15-16. So keep in mind, always level up your gems, Sunder and Ancestral Warrior Totem. This is a common mistake that new players do. They don't level up their gems because we're doing damage based on our gem levels. Yeah, and here some simple rares that you can use. Now for the normal version, you will use a two-handed one, either with +6 gems or +7. Yeah, pretty much this is the normal version. And for the items, look for multiple sockets if it's possible, so you can put more runes and soul cores. Yeah? And for the max version, the build becomes a beast once you reach the max version. Let's explain all the possibilities here. First of all, you will use a Prism of Belief diamond that will bump +3 level to Ancestral Warrior Totem. This is a huge damage boost that you can use. You can also take gem levels 20 and 21 if it's possible for corruption. This is a huge damage boost. I need to stress that we deal shit ton of damage based on gem levels. So the more gem levels you have, the more damage you do, pretty much. Here you can also find for maximum with a corruption +1 level of melee skills on top of +2. This is great for damage boost. You can also use a Megalomaniac that you can have extra nodes from the skill tree with utility. All Rot Resolve, it's broken. You put it here. Basically this is a life flask, but that grants you a shield. You see? A shield that absorbs damage. This is busted as fuck. Yeah, so for Maxim, if you take Old Rot, is the best flask for this build. Svalin will replace for Maxim, so when you're level 92 or higher, you'll have enough points to invest into regeneration nodes and you will use a Svalin. This will make the Turtle Cham Ascendancy nodes shine. Yeah, so basically Svalin will raise your block chance more than 75%. Pretty much, if you're new, this is how it works. So we have an OP block. Svalin will raise that block even more. So this will be for Maxim. You'll use Svalin here. Yeah, so good. So you have in the build guide the max version on this, where I explain all these pieces and why they are so overpowered. Good. And last thing that we need to discuss here, it's about the jewels that we use. We use a lot of rare jewels that have the following modifiers. The most important one is increased block chance and increased life regeneration rate. We need increased block chance because we have this downside here, less block chance. Now in patch 0.2 this was lowered from 35 to 25, which is great news for us because we will use less rare jewels here. So we will have more possibilities that I will test, and I will do that updated build guide in 10 days or so. So here you want increased life regeneration on all the jewels and block chance. So you see I have a lot of rare jewels with increased block chance, life regeneration. And for the other modifiers you look for totem damage and things that give you damage, pretty much. Let me check the modifiers here. Even here totem life it's fine. Increased attack damage works with totems. Yeah, let's see this one. Melee damage works with totems. You also have some trade links in my Discord and in the guide. I provided some trade links for budget and optimal jewels if you want. Just use those trade filters. Here another one. Increased life regeneration and block chance are the mandatory ones. This is what you need to understand. Okay, let's move on. Okay, my boys, now it's time to talk about the gem setups here. Keep in mind that GGG in patch 0.2 added more than 100 support gems, so most likely the gems that you see here will see adaptations. That's why, for the start, you will stick with these gem setups, and as the patch 0.2 progresses, I will do changes and I will release a final guide in 10 days or so. But until then, I will present the current setup. So everything that you see here might change based on the new gems that we have. Okay, let's start with our main skill, which is Ancestral Warrior Totem. Keep in mind that gem levels matter. So you want a high gem level. Ideally for budget you'll use level 19, for the normal build you'll use level 20, and if you want to push it you will take with Corruption +1, so it's level 21. But level 19 is fine for waste on 15, it clears everything good. Here you want Sunder, same idea applies, you want it with gem levels. For budget you will stop at level 19, and later you will get level 20 or 21. Then you want to put here Brutality support, Heavy Swing, Heft, and lastly Upheaval. Yeah, basically this will split your attack in 2 additional features that will help greatly with the clear. But in order to unlock the last gem support, you will need to use a perfect Jeweler's Orb. That's why you will add it last. So you will unlock these gems in this order: Brutality, Heavy Swing, Heft, and last one will be Upheaval. So remember that you will need to use Jeweler's Orb here: Lesser, Greater, and Perfect. Usually the perfect one will be much harder to take, so that's why Upheaval will be last one. Don't worry, the damage is great even without Upheaval, but once you put Upheaval here, the clear speed becomes to the next level, much more potent. Yeah. And also we are getting Ancestral Spirits from the Ascendancy point here, which is this one. That we can support with various gems. Now, because they release more than 100 gems, I'm pretty sure that we'll have multiple utility gems for minions, but until then you will use Mid Shield, Culling Strike, Blind, and Minion Mastery. Yeah, I will make daily summaries on my channel and I will explain if I spot something really good, we will add it here to the system. I will also update the written guide from the PoE Vault website. Good, so we will use this one: Mid Shield, Culling Strike, Blind, and Minion Mastery. You unlock these slots not by using Jeweler's Orb, just by leveling up. As you level up, you will unlock more and more support gems for your minions, which is pretty sexy. Here you want Orb of Storms, level does not matter. We are using Orb of Storms as the trigger for Font of Blood and Font of Rage. We also support Persistence, so these buffs last longer. We can use 2 Orb of Storms simply because we are using the Uldum Amulet. Usually it's 1, but because we're using Uldum, we can place 2. While you stay around the Orb of Storms, you get Rage, which boosts significantly your damage and gives you more life regeneration. Yeah, this is good. If you want to make it smoother to play, you will add later Arcane Tempo that will add more cast speed. So you will place the Orb of Storms really fast in your maps, which is pretty good. Yeah. For the auras, you will use Time of Need here, and you will support it with Fast Forward and Herbalism. So this aura Time of Need will passively heal you and remove all the curses and elemental ailments. It's so good because it's passively, you don't need to worry about them. For the second aura, we're gonna use Blasphemy, which is important to notice here. You want it close to level 8. Level 8 it's ideal because you will have a lower intelligence requirement, yeah? Also for the Enfeeble here. So Blasphemy and Enfeeble should be level 8, or if you have more intelligence, sure, level 9 is also fine. Yeah, so it's important here that you don't want a lot of gem levels. So you want Blasphemy, supported with Enfeeble, Ritualistic Curse, and Magnified Effect. So basically when you move inside your maps, you will curse automatically as you move enemies with Enfeeble that will make them deal less damage. So you'll become more of a tanky boy, which is essential. Now, remember that you can apply quality on these skill gems. If you apply quality on Blasphemy, it will allow you to support Herbalism. If you don't use 20 quality, then you will not use Herbalism, yeah? You'll just stick fast forward and you stop here. If you apply 20 quality on Blasphemy, then you can add Herbalism. Good. Here you have Lip Slam. So for your map, when you navigate, you will use just dodge roll because it's faster. Lip Slam you will use to traverse impossible terrain, like a gap. You will jump over the gap with Lip Slam, and here you want to support it with Holy Descent, so it also gives you Consecrated Ground as a buff, minor buff. This is a little tiny utility thing that you can do. Here you want Shield Charge, which will help you with the map mobility, and you will support it with Ingenuity, so it has cooldown recovery rate, so you can use it more often. Basically use this in your maps to move faster. Yeah, and use Ingenuity so you can use it multiple times in your maps. This is pretty much the setup. As you can see, it's very noob friendly. I tried my best to simplify it as much as possible while becoming really tanky. We don't need to worry anymore about armor break. This is because of how Sunder works here. Basically, it consumes all the armor breaks to guarantee a critical strike. Now, the thing is that this build does not deal critical strikes because we take a Resolute Technique. This is a lazy node that will guarantee that all our hits will hit the target. We don't need to worry anymore about accuracy or items, so it's very easy to gear up. And we also don't need to worry about allocating multiple jewels or passive nodes that grant accuracy. Yeah, so you don't need to worry about armor break. Also, all the monsters have their armor lowered by 30% in this league, which is just too good. My boys, now let's take a look at the skill tree. Let's start with the keystone so we understand them. This is pretty straightforward. Blood Magic, it removes all the mana, as you can see, and our skills will cost life, which is a huge quality of life, especially for casual players, new players, because they don't want to worry about pressing the mana flask, watching the mana, having mana regeneration, none of that crap. We're focusing on a lot of life regeneration, and we just spam our skills. And because our life regeneration is very high, you won't feel it, yeah? So Blood Magic is mandatory for this build, it's a keystone here. Another one is this one. As you know, in Path of Exile 2 we have hit chance. Basically with this node allocated you don't have to worry about hit chance. Even for the evasive monsters you will still hit them without any problems. So you don't need to worry about accuracy on your items, you don't need to worry about allocating nodes with accuracy, none of that crap. Now we have a downside, never deal critical strikes, but this is not a crit based build. So we are not scaling critical strikes, so we don't care about that downside. We will not use armor break skills in this version because Sunder Totems comes with a downside. Here it consumes the broken armor to guarantee a critical hit. But because we cannot critical hit, it's useless for us, so we will not use armor break skills. Now we have this one, Aero Reflexes. You will allocate it only if you have evasion rating on your items. For example, here I have it on my boots, I have it on my gloves, and this will get converted into armor. Let's take something as a reference. Estimated physical damage reduction 56%, and we will try to remove that node. See, 51. So this will help you, will give you extra armor. In case you have evasion rating on your stuff here, you might want to consider to take this node because it will help you with physical damage reduction. If you don't have evasion rating, you will not allocate this thing, but it's good to know. Here it's something very sexy, very nice. Basically, when you want to upgrade your build from a one-hand mace with +5 gems to a two-handed mace, you will allocate this keystone Giant's Blood that will allow you to wield two-handed weapons. Now it comes with a downside, triple attribute requirements, but in the item section of this guide I explained how to buy properly a two-handed mace and what to do there. So these are all the keystones. Yeah, pretty sexy, pretty good. Now let's talk about the small notables. The most important ones are these ones that will grant you one extra totem. You have these nodes here. One extra totem here, Watchtowers and Ancestral Artifice. So these are very important, should be taken as fast as possible for this build here. Also, when you take this node, you will also want to take this one and this one. We want to take these nodes close to our pathing, and here this node here will help you to place your totems farther away from you and faster, which is good. And here it's also good damage when you summon a totem. We take everything here, which is pretty good. Now, we want to keep our block chance, so your block chance need to be kept at the maximum. With the Rise of the Phoenix here, the maximum will be 75%. So naturally we want to take nodes that boost our block chance. For example, here, yeah, we have multiple ones. 1 second, we have here some, we have here at the top some, yeah. This will help you. You need to have 75% block chance, so you become really tanky. This build becomes a monster once you allocate this node also, but we will take in the Ascendancy. Chance to give aftershocks. Works with totems. So it has been tested multiple times. This thing works with totems. 8% chance to create aftershocks, and here 10%, so 80%. Basically, it will repeat your skills a second time for more damage. Yeah, so we take this because they are too powerful. Yeah, you want to go here also because it will give you some increased attributes and some attributes that will help you with more strength and also will help you with dexterity and intelligence. So this is also very important. Here are the MVPs, basically will give you increased damage per chance to block. Yeah, and we have 75% chance to block. This is 75% increased damage. Huge damage boost here. And we also have here a similar node. Same thing, increased damage per chance to block. 75% chance to block. That's 75 increased damage for free. This is way too good. And lastly, if you noticed, I went for a lot of jewel sockets. We have a lot of jewel sockets, and inside we want to put rare jewels that will give you increased life regeneration and increased block chance until you have your block cap here. So if you're struggling with block chance, no problem, you just put a lot of rare jewels with these modifiers. Keep in mind that on the guild Discord server you have a link. Also in the build guide on the PoE Vault you have the same links. Trade links for the jewels. This is the ideal jewel that you want. And here is the budget. If you're poor, and you can take this as a temporary jewel, and later you will transition into the best in slot rare jewel. So you have the trade links on the PoE Vault website and on my guild Discord server for this build. Good. Keep in mind that we might see changes for the skill tree setup as the new patch progresses, because I explained I will do changes for the gem setups, I will take a look at the new nicks, and it's possible that I will do changes. But for now you should stick with this setup. Good. Now my boys, let's take a closer look at the Ascendancy. This is one of the tankiest Ascendancy for totems. The MVP nodes are these ones, wooden wall, that makes 20% of the damage from hits that you receive gets redirected to a totem. Basically you put totems when you move, and they will absorb 20% of the damage that you take to them. This is a big damage mitigation buff that you will take. And the craziest node of all is this one here, Turtle Charm, that can block all damage from all hits. This is basically much more powerful than the regular block. This is really strong, and in patch 0.2 they lowered the penalty of 35% less block to 25, so it's much more easier now to cap to maximum block chance. That's why I will do adaptations for the skill tree as I play in this new league. So I will do adaptations solely because of this node. We also get minions, so when we're summoning totems we trigger ancestral spirits. These spirits will give you buffs. For example, this one will give you skill speed. And all these buffs, by the way, they got buffed in the patch 0.2, so these minions will be even more potent. Not only that, we can support these minions with different utility gems, for example, Culling, Strike, Blind, so we make it more interesting. And these minions act like mid shields, so inside the maps, they will tank enemies for you. So you will barely get aggroed by the enemies because of these minions. Not only that, I suggest you stick with Idol of Uldum, because this will give you 1 extra minion, so you will have 4 minions instead of 3. And you can also place 2 Orb of Storms, which is so good. And here is the least important of all. Basically, it will give you more block chance, simply put. But the MVPs are this one, Wooden Wall, and Turtle Charm. You should focus to unlock your labs in this order. First, you will take Answered Call in your first lab. Then you take Wooden Wall in the second one. Then you want Relentless Training. And in the last one, you will take Turtle Charm. You will unlock them in this order. The most powerful nodes are this one, Wooden Wall, and the Turtle Charm. If you're doing Waste on 15 and 16, this is mandatory to have it. Yeah, so you need to complete the last lab in order to allocate all the Ascendancy nodes. So the builds revolves heavily around the Ascendancy. My boys, my throat started to hurt, so we need to wrap things up. So for League Start scenario, if you want to level a warrior, we will go with MRLLAMA's character progression. It's very easy to follow, and it's also quite good. So you will do this for League Start, and you have here for Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, I'm assuming, also has a skill tree progression. You see for Act 1 in order to allocate your skill points. Now, to transition into my build from his beautiful guide here, it's very easy. You will use Doriani to respec your points with gold, it's not a problem. But you need to understand what you need, the mandatory things. First of all, you will need to allocate mandatory this node that will give you 1 extra totem, this node 1 extra totem, so you will need to path this way and allocate this node and this node, and you also want to take resolute technique. Yeah, pretty much these are the mandatory ones if you want to swap in the campaign phase. And regarding the items, because we have some mandatory items. You will want to have a mace with gem levels, Aether +3 or +4 for the campaign, or if you're in the mapping phase, you will get with +5 gem levels. Keep in mind that these are very cheap. Even on Lickstar, these are dirt cheap maces. And for the gloves, you want with a plus level of all melee skill gems. If you're in the campaign, you will take with +1 level of all melee skill gems, because we deal damage greatly based on our gem levels. Remember to always level up your gems using uncut skill gems. So your Ancestral Warrior and Standard gems should be always level up as you progress, because a lot of people forget to do that. So these gems here need to be level up as you progress. Good. Lastly, you want to have an Idol of Uldum amulet, and you want the Rise of the Phoenix shield. So when you have a mace with gem levels, gloves with gem levels, Uldum amulet and Rise of the Phoenix, and you also have these nodes allocated at the bottom with +1 totem here, +1 totem here, and this Keystone Resolute technique, you can swap to this build even in the campaign. Yeah, until you get those items, you will stick with MRLLAMA's guide. So you will stick with this guide. He has also written descriptions, so you can follow them very easy. If you have questions, you will private message that guy and you'll start getting angry at him. Man, I tried to make a joke. My joke was not successful, but who cares? Because here is my build guide on PoE Vault, and I will update it as I do changes to the build. Yeah, so you have everything here, including how to max it with gameplay footage also. Yeah. If you have questions, remember that you have my guild Discord server, and you can ask me question here. You also have a dedicated channel for the build and a dedicated chat channel where if you have questions or problems, you can just ask here, and we will help you. Man, I need to take a nap because my throat really hurts. Enjoy the rest of the day, and good luck.